Andre Agassi.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Andre Agassi College Preparatory Academy. I want to thank both our candidates, Rory Reid and Brian Sandoval, for accepting our invitation to come here tonight and share their thoughts on one of the most vital issues we face today in our state, education. As you know, we first built this school because we believe that nothing has the power to change a child's life like a quality education. Without an education, a child cannot hope, cannot dream. Without a quality educational system, a state cannot compete. No matter what he does, the next governor of Nevada will long be remembered for the effect he's had on education. Like the rest of America, Nevada is struggling economically. Since a huge portion of our state budget, roughly half, goes to education, the next governor will be called upon to make some serious, excruciating decisions. They will be asked time and time again, how much are we spending on education? Should we spend more? Are we spending enough? Are we spending it wisely? What's being done to ensure accountability? By the time we leave here tonight, I expect we'll all have a clear idea of how each of these men will answer those questions. One of the things that makes me proudest about Agassi Prep is our code of respect, which our children recite every morning before class. I ask our audience and our candidates tonight to show the kind of respect we demand of our kids so that the dialogue can be meaningful and constructive. Thank you again for joining us, and best of luck to both candidates.
Thank you, Andre. Well said.
Thank you, Andre. Before we begin, we want to review the rules for tonight's debate, which the candidates have both already agreed to.
Each candidate will get 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes at the end for summary.
Paula and I will ask questions, and we will also have taped questions from the community. The questions will be asked alternately to each candidate. They will have 2 minutes to answer. Their opponent will have 1 minute to respond, after which the first candidate will be allowed a 1-minute rebuttal if they so choose.
And Dave and I may also ask follow-up questions for each candidate, and they will then each have 1 minute to respond to that. Our time limits will be strictly enforced by our timekeeper, Chris.
And in the interest of allowing the candidates as much time as possible to be heard, we ask the audience, and we have a full house here tonight, we ask the audience to hold all applause until the end of the debate. Please, no outbursts, and turn off your cell phones so that we can hear the closing remarks also made by each candidate.
And by coin toss, Rory Reid will go first with his opening statement.
Thank you, Paula. It's great to be here tonight to talk about one of my favorite subjects, education. Everyone here in this hall and everyone watching this debate at home on TV is angry or anxious, and you have a right to be. Your schools are failing your children. Your governor has let this economy crash at your feet. You know that we need a strong leader to get us through this mess. Brian Sandoval is a nice man, but he's a weak leader. And let me tell you why I say that. Brian says he's for education, but his budget proposal would cut our schools more than Jim Gibbons ever did. His plan would lead to the termination of teachers, explosion of class size, and his voucher proposal would take at least $100 million of your taxpayer dollars and subsidize the private education of just a handful of students. I will not cut education, period. You can count on it. My budget proposal funds our schools and makes sure that you will have teachers in your classrooms. Our schools are in crisis. We're going to talk about that tonight. And we need a strong and decisive leader to lead us through this. On education, Brian is not strong, and he is not consistent. He even supports Sharon Angle, who would abolish the Department of Education. My name is Rory Reid. I've been strong, consistent, and honest in everything I've ever done. I've been a successful business executive. I've balanced Clark County's $6 billion budget every year for 8 years without ever raising your taxes. I've prioritized county spending to create jobs at a time when we need them the most. I've made the tough decisions when they needed to be made. Strength and consistency is what Nevada needs in its next governor, and that's the kind of governor I'll be for you. I want to thank Andre Agassi Preparatory Academy for hosting this event. Let the debate begin.
Mr. Mr. Sandoval, your opening statements.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly a pleasure and honor to be here today. I'd like to thank Channel 8. I'd like to thank the Review Journal. I'd like to thank Mr. Agassi and his foundation for sponsoring this very important event. And I think there's one thing that my opponent and I do agree on, that education is incredibly important. I'd like to introduce myself to all of you. I grew up in this state. I was educated in this state. I had an opportunity to serve all of you in the Nevada legislature. I had an opportunity to serve you as the chief gaming regulator in the state of Nevada. I served as your attorney general, and I also served as a federal judge. I get asked all the time on the campaign trail, why would I give up a lifetime appointment to run for governor? The answer is very simple. I care deeply about this state. I had a unique opportunity to serve this state and leave the security of that appointment to try and improve what we have here. As I said, education is extremely important to me. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to take my 6-year-old daughter to first grade. It's a big day for her. Our education system is in peril, and I think that we need to do something tough. We need to challenge the system. We need to shake up the status quo. That's why I delivered a plan, a very specific plan that will shake up the status quo. It calls for accountability in education. It calls for choice, to give every parent an opportunity to decide where they're going to send their kids. It calls for local control. It calls for the end of teacher tenure. And finally, it calls for the end of social promotion of our children. We can't wait any longer. I'm not going to wait 5 years. There are thousands of children in our educational system. We have to do something now. My plan will do that. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
We're going to ask questions of each candidate specifically, but this first question we have for both men.
That question is, and we begin with Mr. Reid, considering the state faces a $3 billion shortfall, realistically, how can you improve education at a time when every budget at the state level will be cut?
Great question. A budget is more than just lines on a piece of paper. It is a statement of our priorities as a people. And that's why this week I offered a balanced budget proposal that balanced the budget and protected education. I do not cut 1 cent from education funding. It's also why I worked with my wife Cindy, my favorite teacher, on an education plan. Cindy and I worked for 10 months on our plan. We talked to parents, principals, teachers, administrators, so-called education experts. And what we found is that it doesn't matter what you call a school. It can be a charter school like this one. It can be a magnet school, an empowerment school, a career technical school, a traditional public school. It doesn't matter what you call it. The hallmark of a successful school is a school that has a principal that can lead, teachers that can be creative and do what the child sitting in front of them needs, and parents that are engaged. And what we need in Nevada is a plan that will allow every school in Nevada to be innovative and do the kind of things that you see done here at Andre Agassi College Preparatory School. Our plan will do that. It will also cut administrative costs by taking the power away from bureaucrats and giving it to the people that should have it, principals, teachers, and parents at the local level with local control. That's what my plan would do. And I don't cut a nickel from the budget to get there. I'm the only person on this stage that can say that. Now, Brian, I think there's something we need to clear up. I've been pointing out over the last several weeks that your budget proposal would cut more from education than Jim Gibbons ever did. He cut $300 million. Your plan would cut $533 million. Whenever I say that, you say I'm lying. So Brian, here's the number, $533 million. If this isn't the right number, how much are you going to cut?
Your response.
Yeah. Thank you. And the budget issue is important. We have a budget struggle. And Rory, I read your plan. And you don't know your own budget plan because it seeks to cut education as well. You have included as part of your budget plan a decrease in funding for the entire state, which includes education. 70% of our state's payroll is education. So as part of your own proposal that you submitted 3 days ago includes a dramatic cut to education. We all have to realize our state has challenges. I've visited schools throughout the state. I've visited with businesses. We lead the country in unemployment. We lead the country in foreclosures. There has to be a shared sacrifice. And I've said consistently that my opponent has misled all of you with regard to my education plan. It seeks reduction in salary for folks, state employees across the state. Nowhere in my plan does it call for the layoff of a single teacher.
You have a minute to rebut if you care to, Mr. Reid.
I would love to. Brian was smart enough not to use the word layoff in his plan. He talks in terms of personnel costs and salary reductions. And the fact is that his plan would lead to teachers being fired. It also is true that Brian can't do what he says he would do. As a former Attorney General and as an attorney, he should know that he can't reduce teachers' salaries unless they agree to it. Brian also failed to address that his plan would divert $110 million from class size reduction, money that is scheduled to reduce class size for 7- and 8-year-olds in Clark County, and he diverts that money to the general fund. And then there's his voucher plan that he didn't mention as well. And I don't think you answered the question, Brian. Your plan will cut education. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The question is just how much. I say it's that much. What do you say?
And now, Mr. Sandoval, we actually haven't asked you the question yet.
All right.
So here it is again. Considering the state faces a $3 billion shortfall, realistically, how can you improve education at a time when every budget at the state level is being cut?
And that's the hallmark of my plan, is to change the delivery of education systemically. One thing that I haven't discussed is merit pay. My plan calls for merit pay to reward the good teachers, to reward the good schools. And yes, I'm proud of the fact that my plan calls for choice. I think every parent in this state should have the ability to decide where their children are going to attend school. My plan calls for the end of teacher tenure. We all know that teachers are wonderful, but we have to give them the ability to deliver a proper and quality education. We need to reward the good teachers. The teachers that are struggling, they need to receive assistance. And if there are teachers that shouldn't be in the classroom, then perhaps there needs to be a change. But my plan doesn't call for the layoff of teachers. And again, I'd like to hear from you, Rory. Your most recent budget plan calls for the reduction of spending of approximately $200 million to education.
Well, Brian, I don't know where you're getting your numbers. That's simply not true. I continue the furloughs, but that would not impact education. And I think what we need to do here is focus on what's important. Let me tell you about Principal Jeff Horn at Green Valley High School. I'm a little biased. My daughters went to Green Valley High School, go Gators, and my son's about to start at Green Valley. When Cindy and I were developing our education plan, we talked to Jeff about what he thought needed to be done to make it possible for every school in Nevada to innovate. And I think the best example is that of the $6,000 allocated for each student in Nevada, Principal Horn had discretion over only $100, 100 of the $6,000. And we need to give principals more discretion at the community level so that every school can improve. That's what my plan would do. Brian's plan allows only certain schools to move forward and improve. My plan gives every school the ability to innovate. And I think that's the main difference between our plans.
Do you wish to rebut, Mr. Sandoval?
I do. Thank you very much. And I've read my opponent's plan, and as far as it goes, it's good. I mean, in terms of it uses empowerment, which we already have. It uses Envision, which is a program that is going to be used in Washoe County in the very near future. I had an opportunity to visit with all 17 school superintendents. So the point I think we need to make is, as far as it goes, it's fine, but we need to go further. We need to break the mold. We can't wait for the 5 years that's called for in my opponent's plan to change the system. By that time, thousands of children will have gone through. My first grader will be a sixth grader. My plan will allow for change immediately. It will call for immediate merit pay for teachers, again, to reward the good teachers. It will call for the end of social promotion so that no child hits the grade of 3 without being able to read. It will give principals throughout this state the ability to have local control for the decisions of the kids in their schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sandoval. We understand that it'll be hard to divorce the